Today, after a long time, between my 30th episode, I discussed about Shakespeare. Now, 127th episode, now I am going to bring forth you about Shakespeare's, the famous drama Romeo and Juliet. Let us see the brief. Prayer. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy drama written by William Shakespeare early in his career. About two young star-crossed lovers whose deaths ultimately reconcile their dispute families. It was among Shakespeare's most popular plays during his lifetime, and along with Hamlet is one of his most frequently performed plays. Today, the title characters are recorded as model young lovers. Romeo and Juliet belongs to a tradition of tragic romances stretching back to the antiquity. The plot is based on an Italian tale translated into verse as The Tragical History of Romeo and Juliet by Arthur Brooke in the year 1562 and retold in prose in Palace of Pleasure by William Painter in the year 1567. But Shakespeare borrowed heavily from both but expanded the plot by developing a number of supporting characters, particularly Mercutio and Paris. Romeo and Juliet has been adapted numerous times for stage, film, musical and opera Veneces. Shakespeare's use of his poetic dramatic structure has been praised as an early sign of his dramatic skill. The play ascribes different poetic forms to different characters, sentiments changing in the form of character developing. Romeo, for example, grows more adept at the sonnet over the course of the play. Now, see, what are the major characters we can see? Ruling house of Verona. Who are they? Prince Aeschylus is the ruling prince of Verona. Count Paris is a kinsman of Aeschylus who wishes to marry Juliet. Mercutio is another kinsman and Aeschylus a friend of Romeo. House of Capulet. Capulet is a patriarch of the house of Capulet. Lady Capulet is a matriarch house of Capulet. Juliet Capulet is a 13-year-old daughter of Capulet, the play's female protagonist. Tybalt is a cousin of Juliet, the nephew of Lady Capulet. The nurse is Juliet's personal attendant and confidant. Rosaline is Lord Capulet's niece, Romeo's love in the beginning of the story. And Peter, Samson and Gregory are servants of Capulet household. Now, House of Montague. Montague is a patriarch house of Montague. Lady Montague is a matriarch of house of Montague. Romeo Montague, the son of Montague, is the play's male protagonist. Benvolio is Romeo's cousin and also the best friend. Abram and Balthasar and servants of the Montague household. Others, Friar Lawrence is a Franciscan friar and Romeo's confidant. Friar John is sent to deliver Friar Lawrence's letter to Romeo. An apothecary who reluctantly sells Romeo poison. A chorus reads a prologue to each of the first two acts. Now, let us have a brief synopsis. The play set in Verona, Italy begins with a street brawl between Montague and Capulet servants who, like their master, are sworn enemies. Prince Escalus is Verona intervenes and declares that further breach of the peace will be punishable by death. Later, Count Paris talks to Capulet about marrying his daughter Juliet, but Capulet asks Paris to wait another 2 years and invites him to attend a planned Capulet ball. Lady Capulet and Juliet's nurse try to persuade Juliet to accept Paris' courtship. Meanwhile, Benvolio talks with his cousin Romeo, Montague's son, about Romeo's recent depression. Benvolio discovers that it stems from unrequited infatuation for a girl named Rosalina, one of Capulet's nieces. Persuaded by Benvolio and Mercutio, Romeo attends a ball at the Capulet house in hopes of meeting Rosaline. However, Romeo instead meets and falls in love with Juliet. Juliet's cousin, Tybalt, is enraged at Romeo's of sneaking into the ball, but is only stopped from killing Romeo by Juliet's father, who does not wish to shed blood in his house. After the ball, in what is now called the balcony scene, Romeo sneaks into a Capulet orchard and overhears Juliet at her window owing her love to him, in spite of her family's hatred of the Montagues. Romeo makes himself known to her and they agree to be married. With the help of Prior Lawrence, who hopes to reconcile the two families through their children's union, they are secretly married the next day. Benvolio argues that Romeo has justly executed Tybalt for the murder of Mercutio. The prince, now having lost a kinsman in the warring families, feud exiles Romeo from Verona under penalty of death if he ever returns. Romeo secretly spends the night in Juliet's chamber, where they consummate their marriage. Capulet, misinterpreting Juliet's grief, agrees to marry her Count Paris and threatens to discover her own. Then she refuses to become Paris' joyful bride when she then pleads for the marriage. To be delayed, her mother rejects her. Juliet visits Friar Lawrence for help, and he offers her a potion, mean venom, that means poison, that will put her into a death like coma for 42 hours. The friar promises to send a messenger and inform Romeo of the plan so that he can rejoin her when she awakens. On the night before the wedding, she takes during, and when apparently dead, she is laid in the family crypt. We can say crypt means a kind of samadhi, gori in Hindi used to say. The messenger, however, does not reach Romeo, and instead Romeo learns of Juliet's apparent death from his servant Balthasar. Heartbroken, Romeo buys poison from an apothecary, mean a kind of pharmacist, and goes to the Capulet crypt. He encounters Paris, who has come to mourn Juliet privately. Believing Romeo to be vandal, Paris confronts him, and in the ensuing battle, Romeo kills Paris. Still believing that Juliet to be dead, he drinks the poison. Juliet then awakens and, discovering that Romeo is dead, stabs herself with his dagger and joins him in death. See what a love. The feuding, mean disputed families, and then prince met at the tomb to find all three dead. Friar Lawrence recounts the story of the two star-crossed lovers. The families are reconciled by their children's deaths and agree to end their violent feud. The play ends with the princess elegy for the lovers. For never was a story of more woe or than this of Juliet and her Romeo. This is a synopsis. Now let us come for sources. Romeo and Juliet borrows from a tradition of tragic love stories dating back to antiquity. One of these is Pyramus and Thisbe from Ovid's Metamorphoses, which contains a parallels, a replacement to Shakespeare's story. The lovers' parents despise each other, and Pyramus falsely believes his lover Thisbe is dead. The Ephesia of Xenophon of Ephesus, written in the 3rd century, also contains several similarities to the play, including the separation of the lovers and a poison that induces death like sleep. One of the earliest references to the names of Montague and Capulet is from Dante's Divine Comedy, who mentions the Montague and Capulet in Canto 6 of Purgatorio. What quotes they say? Come and see your negligence, Montagues and Capulets, Molodian, Philippi, one not already grieving, the other in fear. Themes and motives. Scholars have found it extremely difficult to assign one specific overarching theme to the play. Proposals for main theme include a discovery by the character that human beings are neither wholly good nor wholly evil, but instead more or less like awakening out of dream and into reality. Mean the danger of hasty action or the power of tragic fate. None of these have widespread support. However, even if an overall theme cannot be found, it is clear that the play is full of several small thematic elements that intervene in complex ways. Several of those most often debated by scholars are discussed. Now, love. Romeo and Juliet is sometimes considered to have no unifying theme, save that of young love. Romeo and Juliet have become emblematic of young lovers and doomed love. Since it is such an obvious subject of the play, several scholars have explored the language and historical context behind the romance of the play. On this first meeting, Romeo and Juliet use a form of communication recommended by many profound authors in Shakespeare's day, metaphor, meaning a kind of alankara called Rupaka. He pointed out that if a man used a metaphor as an invitation, the woman could pretend she did not understand him and he could retreat without losing honor. In the latter balcony scene, Shakespeare has Romeo overhear Juliet's soliloquy. Especially Shakespeare used the word of soliloquy. In his every drama, soliloquy means conversing oneself in lonely place. That is called soliloquy. Shakespeare introduced soliloquy. Even in Hamlet, when Hamlet comes, I tell you, Hamlet also, the senior Hamlet himself uses soliloquy. Here, same thing, Juliet's soliloquy. Means one's talking oneself in lonely place. But in Brooke's version of the story, her declaration is done alone. By bringing Romeo into the scene, to monitor Shakespeare breaks from the normal sequence of courtship. Usually, a woman was required to be modest and shy to make sure that her suitor was sincere. But breaking this rule serves to speed along the plot. In the final suicide scene, there is a central contradiction in the message. Romeo and Juliet's love seems to be expressing the religion of love view rather than Catholic view. Another point is that although their love is passionate, it is only consummated in marriage, which keeps them from losing the audience's sympathy. Fate and chance. Scholars are divided on the role of fate in the play. No consensus exists on whether the characters are truly fated to die together or whether the events take place by a series of unlucky chances. Arguments in favor of fate often refer to the description of the lovers as star-crossed. This phrase seems to hint that the stars have predetermined the lovers' future. Scholars see the play as a series of unlucky chances, many to such a degree that they do not see it as a tragedy at all, but an emotional melodrama. Romeo's challenge in Tybalt is not impulsive. It is, after Mercutio's death, the expected action to take. In this expected action, Romeo, as being aware of the dangers of flouting social norms, identity, and commitments, he makes a choice to kill, not because of a tragic flaw, but because of circumstances. Quoted poems from Romeo and Juliet. We can see some quote. Act 1, Scene 5 from Romeo and Juliet. Okay, now Romeo's quote 1, Juliet quote 1. First Romeo. If I profaned with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle sun is this, my lips, two blushing pilgrims ready to stand, to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss. Now, Juliet. Good pilgrim, you do wrong, you had too much. Which mannerly devotion shows in this? For signs have answered pilgrims hand to touch, and palm to palm is a holy palmless kiss. Only palmless kiss. Duality. What is duality? Light and dark. చీకటి వెలుగులు in Telugu. Scholars have long noted Shakespeare's widespread use of the light and dark imagery throughout the play. Caroline Spurgeon considers the theme of light as a symbolic of the natural beauty of young love, and later critics have the stars, the moon, and the sun to create this illusion. He also has characters frequently refers to days of the week and specific hours to help the audience understand that time has passed. All in all, no fewer than 103 references at time are found in the play. Dramatic structure. In Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare employs several dramatic techniques that have generated pause from critics. Most notably, the abrupt shifts of comedy to tragedy. Before Mercutio's death, in Act 3, the play is largely a comedy. After his accidental demise, the play suddenly becomes serious and takes on a tragic tone. When Romeo is banished, means sent away from the city, rather than executed means giving death of cutting of head. And Friar Lawrence offers Juliet a plan to reunite with her Romeo, and the audience can still hope that all will end well. They are in a breathless state of suspense by the opening of the last scene in the tomb. If Romeo is delayed long enough for the Friar to arrive, he and Juliet may yet to be saved. These shifts from Friar to arrive, he and Juliet hope serve to emphasize the tragedy when the final hope fails and both the lovers die at the end. Shakespeare also uses subplots to offer a clear view of the actions of the main characters. For example, when the play begins, Romeo is in love with Rosalina, who has refused all of his advances. Romeo's infatuation with her stands in obvious contrast to his later love for Juliet. This provides a comparison through which the audience can see the seriousness of Romeo and Juliet's love and marriage. Paris' love for Juliet also set up a contrast between Juliet's feelings for him and her feelings for Romeo. The formal language she uses around Paris, as well as the way she talks about him to her nurse, show that her feelings clearly lie with Romeo. Beyond this, the subplot of Montague Capulet feud overactures the entire play, providing an atmosphere of hate is the main contributor to the play's tragic end. Language of the Shakespeare. Shakespeare was a variety of poetic forms throughout the play. He begins with a 14-line prologue in the form of Shakespearean sonnet, spoken by a chorus. Most of Romeo and Juliet is, however, written in blank verse, and much of it in strict with less rhythmic variation than in most of Shakespeare's later plays. In choosing form, Shakespeare matches a colloquial speech. Colloquial speech means day-to-day language. Each of these forms is also molded and matched to the emotion of the scene the character occupies. For example, when Romeo talks about Rosalino earlier in the play, he attempts to use the Petrarchan sonnet form. Petrarchan sonnets were often used by men to exaggerate the beauty of women who were impossible for them to attain, as in the Romeo's situation with Rosalina. This sonnet form is used by Lady Capulet to describe Count Paris to Juliet as a handsome man. When Romeo and Juliet meet, the poetic form changes from the Petrarchan to a then more contemporary sonnet form, using pilgrims and saints as metaphors. Finally, when the two meet on the balcony, Romeo attempts to use the sonnet form to pledge his love, but Juliet breaks it, saying, "Do you love me?" By doing this, she searches for true expression rather than a poetic exaggeration of their love. Juliet uses monosyllabic words with Romeo but uses formal language with Paris. Shakespeare saves his prose style most often for the common people in the play. At the times, he used it for other characters such as Mercutio. Humor also is an important one. Scholars Molly Mahood identifies at least 175 puns and word plays in the text. Many of these jokes are sexual in nature, especially those involving Mercutio and the nurse. Psychoanalytic criticism. Early psychoanalytic criticism is with Rosalina. Critics saw the problem of Juliet in terms of Romeo's impulsiveness, which leads both into aggression, ill controlled, partially disguised aggression, which leads both to Mercutio's death and to the double suicide. Romeo and Juliet is not considered to be exceedingly psychologically complex, and sympathetic psychoanalytic readings of the play make the tragic male experience equivalent with the sickness. Norman Holland, writing in 1966, considers Romeo dream as realistic, wish-fulfilling fantasy both in terms of Romeo's adult world and his hypothetical childhood at the early stage in his life. And while acknowledging that a dramatic character is not a human being with a mental process separate from those of the author, critics such as Julia Kristeva focus on the hatred between the families, arguing that this hatred is the cause of Romeo and Juliet's passion for each other. That hatred manifests itself directly in the lover's language. Juliet, for example, speaks of my only love sprung from my only hate, and often expresses her passion through an anticipation of Romeo's death. This leads on to speculation as it is playwright's psychology of Shakespeare's grief, in particular to a consideration for the death of his son Hamlet. Feminist criticism. Feminist literary critics argue that the blame for family feud lies in Verona's patriarchal society. Patriarchal means Pitruswamyam, matriarchal Matruswamyam. Patriarchal, the family leads by the father, matriarchal by mother. The strict masculine code of violence imposed on Romeo is the main force driving the tragedy to its end. When Tybalt kills Mercutio, Romeo shifts into this violent mode, regretting that Juliet has made him so effeminate. In this view, the younger males become men by engaging in violence on behalf of their fathers, or in the case of the servants, their masters. The feud is also linked to male virility, as the numerous jokes about maidenheads artfully demonstrate. At the same time, emerging Puritan ideas about marriage were less concerned with the evils of female activity or evils of female sexuality than those of earlier eras, and more sympathetic towards love matches. When Juliet dodges her father's attempt to force her to marry a man she has no feelings for, she is challenging the patriarchal order in a way that would not have been possible at an early time. In this way, we can see Shakespeare. Why we are remembering nowadays, youth never forget Shakespeare, because he projected Romeo Juliet's love story to the present, past, future youth. Therefore, Shakespeare is not only a dramatist, writer, poet, so many works he has done for the welfare of the society. In this way, you can see so many dramas of Shakespeare. Now, I just simply not went into deep, because each and every drama is in depth. We can't go depth because it's a limited time. So I went only in brief. Anyhow, thanks for listening to this video. Maximum subscribe your near and dear friends and relatives to encourage me more to do some more services. So far it is, I think, 127th video. Okay, thank you. श्रीयकांताय कल्याण निधे निधेद्राम श्री वेंकट निवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मंगलम मंगलाजासन परे मदाचार्य प्रोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्ये सत्कृतायास्तु मंगलम्.